the future, and he might be the greatest talent that we.
Now I'm more big into visualization.
When did you used to meditate?
Right around 2010, 2011, I went through this huge spiritual thing where I became obsessed with the power of the mind, and I got into it deep, like really deep, just meditation, visualization, and just realizing how powerful our minds actually are, like how we really do paint our world with our thoughts and our level of self-belief. And so right around 2010, I just took myself to this different mental level where I took myself from being an average Joe, kind of. You probably hate average Joe, huh?
Doesn't bother me.
I took myself. You're like, what's average about?
I'm so used to that name. It's such a goofy name. It's good. It's like a blank. It's like cardboard.
Yeah.
It's like there's nothing to it.
Yeah. So I took myself from being very average-minded to actually believing that I was the shit, and believing that I could be the shit, and that I could be the GOAT and be the greatest and never lose. Into, like, I took myself to a different place mentally, and a lot of it came from mental practice and meditation and visualization and just seeking knowledge from people who are strong believers, guys like Les Brown and Tony Robbins and guys like that. I just became really obsessed with just learning about the power of the mind. So I used to meditate. Now I just kind of, I have a lot of things that stuck with me, a lot of ways of believing that stuck with me that just subconsciously I know who I am and what I'm capable of and how I believe. How powerful my mind actually is. David Goggins, he wrote me last night, and I can't repeat what he said verbatim, but the basis of his message was, be the guy who embraces the ugly, the miserable. Be the guy who embraces hard work, the grind. Don't be afraid of being hurt. Don't be afraid of sacrificing some blood, you know? And, you know, the whole week I was thinking, I want to finish this fight. I'm going to finish this fight before the championship rounds. And this is, you know, I should be able to smash this guy. You know, Goggins' message, it was for a reason, you know, his reason. And Greg Jackson's been saying it for years, be comfortable being uncomfortable. But Goggins gave me a really good reminder, just, John, you should want this fight to be miserable. You should want this to hurt. Be the guy who thrives in that. And I felt like I was that guy tonight. I had to earn this position. You know, I think about, you know, the first person to climb Everest. You know, I'm sure people died. Lots of people died. And I respectfully say that. The first man who ran a 4-minute mile, I'm sure he was hurting bad, you know, to be the first person to do anything.
You want, and then, man, imagine if I trained. Next time, if it's someone big, I'll train. Like,
yeah. So I have this, I'm going to share something with, I'm not sure if I've ever shared this with anyone else before, but I had this crazy thing that I would do where I would party 1 week before every fight. And I did it throughout my whole career. And this was stupid, but it was this mental crutch that I had. I literally would, 1 week before every fight, I would go out and I would get blacked out wasted. And my logic was, if this guy were to beat me somehow, I can look myself in the mirror and say that, well, I lost because I got hammered the week before the fight. So
it was a built-in safety net.
It was a safety net, yeah, exactly. So I did it my whole career. I would go out and get hammered 1 week before every fight.
Have you ever worked with a sports psychologist?
No, but now I don't. My Open St. Preux fight was the first fight that I did not do that. It was my worst performance. Having these nightmares that I would get knocked out, and no matter how the fight played out, I would always get knocked out, and it was always within the first 30 seconds of the fight. So, you know, one scenario I'd run out, he'd run at me, swing a huge overhand right. The other, he would throw a right uppercut. And then another dream, it was a left hook. And I couldn't avoid this inevitable knockout that I was going to experience in the first round. And, you know, I'm a big fan of sports psychology, so I call I call those red zone thoughts, and I actually learned that from Rashad Evans. You know, when you have a negative thought, immediately cancel it with a positive thought. You know, instead of thinking of somebody beating your ass, you think of yourself exhausted, you're winning, fight's almost over. Sure. Just think something positive. And I just couldn't avoid these images and actual nightmares of Rampage Jackson knocking me out. So on fight night, I felt like I was going to get knocked out, and I felt like this was coming for me. I felt like energetically, like I was getting these signals from a higher power that, like, Jon, this is going to happen to you tonight. And I couldn't avoid it. So I just had this super deep prayer where I got down on my knees and I touched my body from my head to my toe for the first time. And I prayed this prayer asking God to just give me these supernatural, like, reaction abilities, speed, flexibility, awareness. And as I was praying this prayer and touching myself and rubbing myself and meaning every ounce of this, thinking my life is on the line, I noticed, looking at myself, that I was covered in feathers. I was covered in white feathers.
Like a hallucination?
It wasn't a hallucination, man. It was
real as fuck to you.
It was very real to me. It was very real to me. I could see myself covered in, like, there was like small feathers in between my fingers, and I was covered in feathers, and they came up like to my neck, and my face was still like normal, not in feathers, but my hands and feet were covered. And I felt like I was like this fighting thing that wasn't earthly, almost. And I like felt this surge of energy, power, flexibility, mental acuity and awareness and sharpness that I had never experienced before. And I like jumped off my knees and like landed on both feet immediately, and I was just like, woo, woo! And I was just, when he's like, my coach was just looking at me like they could feel like, okay, he is pumped up. And Coach Winkle John's like, let's hit. And immediately I kicked the pad, and it was like, boom. And it was like, whoa. And like my kicks were lightning fast, and I didn't need to stretch anymore. I didn't need to warm up my lungs anymore. My kicks were going up high. I was jumping higher. I was kicking faster and higher. It was an unbelievable experience, and I actually was able to hang on to this feeling and this illusion of myself being in this alter ego all the way through the cage, all the way through my walk to the cage. And I felt like in that Rampage Jackson fight, I walked into that fight as this Featherman for the first time, and my idea to crawl towards him was the only thing that hadn't happened in all my nightmares, right? Because in every fight I started on my feet. So something just said, get on your knees and crawl up to him. And then automatically the dream voids itself of him knocking you out immediately, right? So I did that, and I got to kind of, I don't know, fight in an alter ego kind of state, and it was super powerful. Now to this day, I say that same kind of prayer over myself, and I believe that I transform it to allow my past to hold weight over me. You gotta forgive yourself for mishaps in life, and you gotta move forward. You can't hold yourself in prisons, and you can't allow anybody else to hold yourself in prisons. If people are talking about things I did 5 years ago, that means I'm doing something right.
Right. Was that always the case, or was that just a part of your maturation process where you started to say, I need to start letting go of the past?
Yeah, it wasn't always the case. You know, it's taken a while for me to be able to be comfortable with some of the mistakes I've made and things like that. But I'm grateful that I am at a place where I'm comfortable with who I am, comfortable in my own skin, and you know, there's no good without bad. You know, so yeah, so I'm grateful. When you have butterflies and you're feeling anxious and you have anxiety or nervous, that's when you're most powerful, I believe. And either you can, you're most powerful. So a lot of people, instead of homing this power and using it, they allow it to just consume them. You know, there's another quote that says, a big challenge or big pressure is like a fire. It's like a raging fire. Either you can allow this fire to consume you and just take you over completely, or you can gain control of this fire and harness it, and you blow it right at your opponent like Dragon Ball Z style.